Hey, welcome everybody. This is the Power of Your Voice podcast, and I'm your host, Mike Murphy, and I'm super excited about our guest today. Let me read his official bio before I tell you what I think of him. Joe Kelley is an addiction specialist, NLP trainer, author, sought after speaker, and media personality. His story of going from hometown sports hero to a reputable canine officer to prison inmate and then rebuilding his entire life captivates audiences and allows him to share practical strategies and tools that everyone can use to create a life that they're proud to live. And believe me, this man should be very proud of the life that he has created after his fall from grace. Let me tell you what I've known, and I've only known this man 3 or 4 months, and I really believe that we are kindred souls, that we were meant to meet in this life. Our stories are so similar, our personalities are similar, and our heart is completely open and ready to serve those that are struggling. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Mike.
You have such an amazing big heart. You're a strong, big guy, and your story is so unbelievable. So I know you, like me, born Irish Catholic. Your parents were quite young, as were mine. You grew up in the Boston area, and your parents got divorced when you were two, and you had a pretty crazy stepfather in life. So tell us your childhood up to getting married for the first time.
Yeah, childhood, like you said, parents divorced at 2. My mother had me when she was 17. My father was 20 years old. They both went on afterwards with significant others. I had one brother and two sisters. My mother had two kids. My dad had another. And I lived with my mom most of my life. I pretty much raised my brother and my sister. So if you ask me to fix something, that's not possible. You ask me to change a diaper, I'm very good at that. So pretty funny. I was athletically gifted, most of my life. That's kind of where, I got away from the chaotic environment that I lived in and got to excel in sports. Those sports made I was like the big fish in the little pond coming from Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Right.
So having those types of accolades and stuff, I wish I was more of a studier back in the day, but
Yep.
it was like Friday Night Lights in my hometown. So went to college on a football and baseball scholarship, and while I was at college, I did what every other athlete did. Party like a rock star and had fun. And I graduated from college, and my whole family are all first responders. Most of them are all firemen. There was one police officer, but growing up, I loved that authority figure.
Mm.
I love the fact that, and also with my athleticism, I never thought about, being a lawyer or a doctor or sitting behind a desk or anything. I wanted to move. I wanted to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always wanted to be a police officer. When I graduated from college, I married my college sweetheart. I worked for DSS, which is now DCF, as an adolescent change unit
Mm.
caseworker. Got into the police academy. And right before the police academy, I had to have surgery on my left knee from all the wear and tear from the turf that I played. Never got hurt playing any athletics. I got hurt, never injured, where I needed surgery or anything like that. And they told me that I'm probably going to need another surgery in 8 years. And fast forward time. As a police officer, I lived in my uniform. I lived in my uniform coming from Massachusetts, blue collar state, its
Right.
benefits and union job and provide for the family, that
Yep.
typical, which is a big change now here in Florida, but that's what I was taught and that's what I knew what to do. And as I was doing that stuff, all that stuff that I wanted to be a police officer, all that, the authority figure being young, all that was great, but no one prepared me for what I was walking into.
Yep.
And my athletic ability went to use. I went through the ranks pretty quickly. I ended up getting on the emergency response team, canine unit, this and that. So I was being dispatched to stuff that, most people don't see in their lifetime. And I was seeing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it started to have an effect on me, inside
Emotionally,
emotionally.
emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah, it started an effect on me emotional, and I had kids now. They were, just born and, 2 and 3. And I was seeing like crib deaths and, fatalities where children were involved. And, as a police officer, and even being from the Northeast and the way I was raised, we weren't taught to ask for help,
Right,
and
right,
especially being an authority figure, we were taught to give the help, through all our police training and everything else. Um, and that's what I did. I stuffed those emotions on the inside, and I just went on with my day. I thought that I became numb to a lot of things,
right.
but I know today that's a lot different than what it was. But back then, I became distant with my wife. I talked less,
Yeah,
at parties. I didn't want to be around as many people. I started to drink a little bit more,
yeah.
to suppress, those feelings that I was going through. And what happened is I was wrestling somebody to the ground. I twisted my knee
Gotcha.
and I had to have surgery. I had to have surgery again. Well, here's the point in my life where all that stuff that I just told you, all that inner stuff that was going on, and me being more distant, and my actions being a little shorter with people, and they put me on high-powered painkillers after the surgery, and it
Yeah.
was like, wow, where have you been? Because when they gave me that stuff, not only did it take away the physical pain,
Right,
it took away the emotional pain. You mean it made everything go away. It's a pill that's the size of my pinky.
right.
The power that it had over that.
Yep.
And here's where it escalated a little bit. I've never been that type of guy, to sit on the couch
Right,
and watch TV and heal,
right,
so-called heal.
right, right,
You mean so and I didn't know a lot about addiction or anything else back then. I took these pain meds more and more to go do things I wanted to do, to
right,
play. I was a washed up athlete, to go play my softball, be the
right,
gung ho athlete still,
right,
to go to work, to make more money. And what happened was, is, my tolerance just kept going up and up and up. And back then, the doctors, because of my status in the community and who I was, they gave me, whatever I wanted when I asked for it,
right.
until the insurances caught on and red flagged me. And this is where I first learned about, withdrawal.
Yes.
You mean I took, I, they shut me off. They shut me off and I couldn't get any more, even if 5 doctors wrote the script.
Right,
And I started to feel my legs were hurting. I was aching. I didn't know, my left from my right. Like all of a sudden, all those emotions that I was suppressing prior
right.
came back tenfold,
Yep,
tenfold,
yep,
like even more than when before I even took any types of medication.
yep.
And all I knew is I needed something. They're like, well, you can't fill your script for like 10 more days.
Huh.
I'm like, 10 more days? I can't wait 10 more
Right,
minutes. Right. I was like falling out of my skin.
right,
And the funny, not the funny part, but here's an instance, when I started to be put on those pain pills and I suppressed all those emotions inside, it was like in my head, it made me a better father, it made me a
yep,
better husband, made me a better person to be around.
right,
Right. And quite frankly, in the beginning, I think it did. Because when I was on something, I was father of the year hanging
right,
off by the tree out back.
right,
When
right,
I didn't have anything, I was like curled up and rolling them a bowl of cereal. Here you go.
right,
Do you know what I mean?
right,
It changed everything about me. And then what happened is when I needed to get stuff and I couldn't get it the way legally I was getting it, I knew I needed something because I couldn't function. So I'm like, what do I do? And I did the next thing that I thought was grab it off people I went to high school with.
yeah,
Just complain to them, oh, make up excuse after excuse. And it started with people just giving me, stuff from their medicine cabinets, this and that.
right,
And then it escalated because my addiction was escalating for me actually have to purchase it.
right.
Well, when you start to have to purchase that stuff and you share a bank account with your wife, that doesn't go over too well.
Hard to hide.
So this is where all the lies and the dishonesty came in.
Right,
There's so many of them, but one of them was, hey, uh, I had to take out $500. And thank God that police equipment cost a lot of money,
right,
because then I could justify, I need a new holster. I need a new vest.
right,
I needed this. I needed that. But here we go again, Mike. 3 months later, I'm still walking around in the same shitty old stuff,
right,
and believe in my own stuff.
right.
And it
And
got to a point
let me
where,
ask you this.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
understand we're taught as m- males growing up, we're not to feel, right? And so when you see this
Yeah,
ugly shit as a cop and you got to go home, so you're stuffing those feelings, right? Because they're overwhelming. You don't know what to deal with. Now you find this magic pill that makes all these feelings okay. But what I find is one, it affects our consciousness and lowers our consciousness. And it also affects our thinking. Our thinking becomes very foggy and unlike us. And now we're lying and still and pretty soon we can't keep track of this stuff. What is that pretty accurate for you?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Ray, you're right. You're right on.
Yeah.
You mean for me, you mean taking care of that stuff. I was the type of guy that would say, "Hey, I got to go down the store, to go get ice cream, just so I could get away from my house to go grab more pills from
Right.
somebody," and I'm coming back 3 hours later.
Insane.
You know what I
Insane.
mean?
Yeah.
The lies, I just couldn't keep up with all the lies and then it's not just the lies.
Yep.
Being who I was, I knew what right from wrong was,
Right. Right.
but I also know that I needed this in
Yep.
order to, maintain myself. It
Right.
wasn't that I was getting high off of it
No.
anymore. I needed it to get back to E.
You
You know
you
what I mean?
you were
You
taking
mean
it not to get sick. That's what happens.
right,
We start taking it because it feels good and it makes us emotionally feel much better. But pretty soon it starts to affect our energy, and then more importantly, if we don't take it, our legs are killing us. We want to puke all the time, and we're hooked on heroin when we take a little pill. That's the thing.
Abs- absolutely. And it gets even worse. And I know you know, Mike, but it's like I couldn't even schedule a vacation
Yeah.
because I was too afraid that I would run out of what I had.
Right. Right.
I mean, it was sick.
Yeah.
And it got to a point, where I had to start get this stuff off the street. Another example, I'm sure people listening can maybe, feel about this is the fact that my wife had said to me, she goes, "I don't know why you're taking out this money. You can't have your ATM card. You're using it way too much."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." I gave her my ATM card. Right. And I remember one night, Mike, I worked midnight. So I was working, she was sleeping, me rolling my cruiser into the driveway, me going into the house, turning my radio off, crawling across the floor to grab my card out of her wallet, doing the same thing, going to get money out of the bank, coming back, doing it all over again, and not thinking nothing of it.
Right.
And then her saying to me, "Hey, did you take out money?" I'm like, "How could I do that? I don't have a card." The lies and the bullshit that I would tell myself,
Yeah. So for
and we get everyone around us, his heads are just spinning. They don't know what to believe.
so for you guys listening or viewing, Joe just described a drug addict. And if you're just popping pills and you're getting away with it right now, that's where you're going to end up. It's almost impossible not to end up there. So please be warned right now. And if you're at that point where Joe is, we're going to talk about him going to prison and all that, but then we're going to talk about how he learned to rewire his whole system and change his life about. So tell us about getting arrested and all that. What happened there?
Yeah, so basically, I first time I ever went to detox. I resigned from my job forcibly. The chief sat me down and he said, "Hey, Joe, if you need some help," I thought I covered all my tracks. The only thing I heard was, "Tell me everything you know so I could fire your ass." I ended up losing my job anyway. But I went to detox for the first time, and all that stuff I was talking about on the inside, feeling empty. Now I'm at a point in my life. My wife left me. I lost my identity, which was my job, because
Right,
that's what it was
right,
my identity.
right.
I lost everything: financial, house, kids, everything. And I'm walking into detox, this broken person of who I was. And, I'm asking for help for the first time in my life. Now I walked into a detox, and the first thing somebody says to me, "You sure you want to be here?"
Mhm.
Because they knew who I was.
Right.
And I said, "You don't have to worry about that. That's gone." And when I went in there, what did I do? I got served with a restraining order the first day I was in, just because my wife wanted to keep me away from the kids, not physical
Right,
harm or
right.
anything like that, just wanted distance. And, I said, "Well, I'll show you." I found the prettiest girl I could find in there because everyone in there spoke my language.
Right.
And here, for the first time in my life, being who I was, never being able to talk about what was going on with me, how it was affecting me and everything else. And then I'm walking into this person going, "Oh, tell me everything." So for me, she was probably looking for a meal ticket,
Right.
but for her,
Yep.
but for me, I was looking for somebody to fill that hole within.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it just got bad. I went on a run with this young lady. a 9-month run, caught 52 charges, nonviolent criminal offenses,
Whoa.
all drug related,
Whoa.
from credit card theft to breaking into cars to
Wow.
falsifying checks, to possession charges. And here's the thing. I kept getting break after break because I had friends that were out there that were kept telling me. And here's my thing is my wife wasn't coming back, my kids weren't coming back, my job wasn't coming back. I just didn't want to live anymore, nor
Yeah.
did I think I'd live to answer to any of the consequences.
So you didn't care.
You know, no, I didn't. I mean, I had lost everything that I had to built up to that point in my life. That I can't tell you how many times I put my gun in my mouth
Yeah.
and I just didn't have the balls to pull the trigger.
Right.
I mean, and
But
that's
but
it.
it's
Said,
interesting. So
I didn't.
you're probably like me. So when I was crazy, I was always thinking my
Yeah,
fallback bottom line position was suicide, right? And then you get in
yeah,
that position, you realize I can't do it. And now you're really
right.
screwed, right? Now that's the point
Really
of
screwed.
total screwed. Okay, so you get arrested, you've lost everything, you lost
Yep.
your wife, you lost your kids, you lost your self-esteem, you've lost everything, and now you're going to prison.
Front page of the paper.
Yeah, how
My
many
stuff was on the front page of the paper everywhere from Boston all the way down to the Cape,
a sexy
for the
story.
arrest.
Yeah, big cop goes down, blah blah blah. But now you're a
Reporters. Yeah, go ahead.
but now you're a police officer going to prison, and that's the worst place
Yeah.
to go. So what were you thinking then?
All right. Yeah, I mean, a little different from what I think now, but I'll go back to my mental state of mind back then. Is I'm walking in, and as much I'm looking at it as an opportunity. All right, I can't take myself out. Maybe somebody else
Oh,
will.
okay,
That's where
okay,
my mental.
got
That's where my mental mind was. Right.
got it. Yep.
So, but when I walked in, it was so weird. All my training kicked in. All my law enforcement training just like initially kicked in. Like I walk in, I'm scanning the place for where are my safe spots?
Right.
Well, who do I need to watch out for? I'm breaking down the whole room like instantly, like that.
Wow.
And I sat down, I go in, I sit down in like the wherever the TV area,
Right.
and I sit down. The guy walks beelines and sits next to me. I'm like, what the hell's this? And he says to me, first person said anything. He goes, I was there for 5 minutes. He goes, I know who the fuck you are, right?
Whoa. Whoa.
And I went, and I literally looked at him, and it's in my book, right? I literally looked at him and go, I don't care what you know.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he literally, I found out afterwards, he knew my brother. He was a
Okay.
kid from my area that knew my brother, my younger brother.
Wow.
And he literally looked at me and said, I don't care. You didn't arrest me. And he
Huh.
walked away. Now,
Eh,
I thought that he was going to go blab to everyone that you possibly could.
Right.
And maybe he did. I
Right.
don't even know.
Right.
I mean, but the fact is, that was my first instant walking into prison. And
Wow.
walking into prison, let me tell you what, there was times that you could hear from the other cell blocks, 5-0's in there, 5-0's in there.
Really?
I
Whoa.
mean, yeah. So I was incarcerated for 19 months in state prison, and let me tell you what. If none of that's a deterrent, the food alone's a deterrent.
That's
But I had I had to watch my back every moment, and it went in different changes
yep.
because when I first went in there, I didn't want to live anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
After like 2 weeks of trying to manipulate anyone that would listen, I'd call my mother. They're going to kill me in here.
Right.
They're going to do this. You got to find bail money. You got to do something.
Right.
After, because I had manipulated everything my entire life up to that point,
Right.
and it worked.
Yep.
It was the first time in my life that I couldn't manipulate my way out of something or use my rank, my athletic ability, who I was, or anything else.
Let me ask you this: Does any addiction run in your family?
Yes,
Okay.
both grandfathers,
Okay.
chiefs of the fire department,
Okay.
alcoholics,
Irish
uncle, alcoholic.
Irish Catholic
Yep.
alcoholic, and then at Pat. Well, your dad left when you were two, so I don't know how much you know about him, but I know your stepfather is doing coke in front of you, right? So it's
Yeah.
pretty
So
pretty common stuff. Okay, so now you have this terrible experience in prison. One, you got a cold turkey in prison, which I couldn't even imagine. Two,
whew,
two,
yeah.
you hit the nail on the head. I don't have any fear in my life. I don't fear death. I don't fear anything. I do kind of fear prison for the food. Okay, it was the only thing. No vitamin D and no food. I mean that because I think of these January 6th guys right now in solitary confinement for 2 years. It really makes me sick to my stomach. But that's another subject. Okay, so now you're out of prison. You've done your time. Now you're an ex-con. Now and your daughters don't really want to hang with you, and your ex-wife and all this. And you go, man, I'm gonna get out of here, and you decide to go to Florida. So what were you thinking then? What was going on?
Yeah. So when I first got out, I had to stay in Massachusetts because I was paroled out,
Oh
for
yeah,
the
yeah,
last
and
six
then they
months.
did away with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I had to stay down there, and it was a miserable experience because being the big fish in the little pond, and all that, I couldn't escape my past.
yeah,
Regardless of what I did, I just couldn't escape it. Um, and what happened was, is I ended up taking a job as like a tech at a detox center,
okay,
and I quickly advanced because I had the college background to become a counselor there.
gotcha.
So became a counselor on the Cape for a detox program, and I wasn't running. I was miserable. I was like, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Is make $25,000, not be able to see my kids, live underneath hair follicle tests and urine test and this and that.
Right,
And, what happened was, is my cousin, I was in a boating accident with my cousin, no drinking, no nothing, just basically out there. And, we, my cousin died, drowned in the water. I almost drowned. I survived. I don't know how I survived up to this point through everything in my life, but God has His purpose,
right,
and I got done and I used for about a week.
yeah,
I used for about a week, and I said, "What are you doing, Joe? What are you doing?" Like, because my whole process, just so your listeners know, it started out with taking pain pills
yeah,
like Perk Fives. It went from Perk Fives to Perk 30s to Oxycontin 80s, from taking it orally to sniffing it to shooting dope in the end.
yeah,
That's the progression of any opiate use.
yep,
And I always said that'll never happen. It happened to me.
yep,
It doesn't matter if you're from Yale or jail. This shit affects everybody.
yep,
Do you know what I mean?
yep,
So what happened is that happened. I go, I need to get out of here. I had a friend down in Florida. He said, Joe, just come down here. I packed a suitcase, jumped the next flight on, had no idea what I was going to do. Just wanted to get away to work on myself
yep,
so I could be a better person for my daughters.
yeah,
And when I got down here, I had some job opportunities that opened up for me, within working with other people that suffered from addiction.
yeah,
Um, and that's what I did. And while I was doing that, probably a year after being here, after really working on myself, I'm still owed the IRS. I still owed this. I still had
right,
to make amends. Still had this and that. But for the first time in my life, I felt whole again.
yeah.
I felt solid. I didn't have any finances. I didn't even have a car.
And let me ask you this, because I'm pretty sure. Well, let me share with the audience this, because this came out of your book when I was reading this morning.
Sure.
Um, you wrote you're going to Florida, and you want to become a better person, and you want to rekindle your relationship with your daughters, which because you have a big heart, I know, and a big open heart. But you say in your book, you quote, "If I'm going to be away from my kids, I'm going to give this all that I have." And you started
Yeah.
working the 12 steps. How did the 12
Yes.
steps really fit in, and especially the fourth step, fifth step, and all that kind of stuff?
Because the 3 years prior, or actually the year and a half prior that I had gotten out of prison, and even during prison, it's the one thing I always refuse not to do.
Oh,
And
oh,
I
oh,
finally said to myself, I go, if I'm gonna go down there, I'm gonna do this. Like, my fourth step
yeah,
was literally 5 or 6 notebooks
uh-huh,
filled with everything you could possibly think of that I put down there. Because I always said to myself, I go, the fourth step's easy. It'll be easy for me
right,
because all my shit was on the front page of the paper.
right,
Do you know what I mean?
right.
But it really wasn't, because there was other stuff there
Well, the
that
resentments,
had come up.
you list all the resentments and all the underlying bull.
Yes,
It's easy to identify all the crimes we commit, right? But it's all the underlying bullshit internally that we have to admit to
absolutely.
ourselves, and we have to write on paper, and then we have to share with someone. And for me, it's like I was so full of shame. I can't tell someone this, but I force myself. And once it's gone, it is freaking gone. That's the magic of those 12 steps, especially those two, and then using the ninth step to keep it clean the whole way. So, I mean,
Yeah, and I had actually shared with you before. When I came clean about being, molested as a child, that's when I knew
yeah,
I was all in.
yes,
I knew I was all
yep,
in because I had never shared that with
yep,
another human soul in my life,
yep.
and now I'm sharing it here right on broad air.
And-
So obviously
Bec- be-
transition
because it's
of
lost
where.
it's lost its power for you. There's no more shame
Absolutely.
attached to it, right? It's out, it's in the open, and
Absolutely.
then now it's gone. So for you guys watching, I don't care if you have any, I don't care if you're perfect, okay? These 12 steps are such powerful tools to create a better version of yourself and then to create a much healthier, wholesome life. And that's the beauty of that. Okay, so then
Yeah.
you're down there, you work these 12 steps, and then in my mind, you have a miracle. You're not looking for anybody. I'm sure you are. Okay. Somewhere
No,
inside you're like, I know, I know.
no, I literally,
Uh, Go ahead. Go ahead.
I literally, I literally said to myself, because as you know, with addiction, when I knew I couldn't drug or booze or any of that type of stuff, we start to fill it with other stuff. So then it
Sex,
became
gambling,
codependent
right.
on
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, so when I came to Florida, I said, I'm going to stop with everything. I'm going to focus on myself. I put relationships off to the side. I didn't get involved with any women because I knew that was the next step.
Yep.
So I did me. But here we go. After a year of being down here, uh, I'm at a cookout. And sometimes God does for you what you can't do for yourself.
Amen.
And it's a funny
Amen.
way of how he did this is he knew that through me to get me to do some of the things that probably I would have never done in my life, that he would bring this beautiful woman into my life,
Right.
right?
Right.
Who is now my wife
Right.
9 years later, right?
Right. Right.
And he I was at a cookout and one of my friends, I looked over, I go, who's that? He goes, you don't stand a chance. And if you ever tell a guy from the Northeast from Boston, he doesn't stand a chance, it's more like watch me, right?
I'm in.
So, yeah. So when I met my wife and we were married, we were engaged. Well, three and a half, no, 6 months later, we were engaged, married within 7 months. Um, and when I met my wife, she did a lot of things like meditation
Mhm.
and Reiki
Yeah.
and NLP and A Course in Miracles.
Right.
Now, all of this stuff would have been like Spanish or whatever language. I only
Right.
know English,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
it was foreign to me,
Yep.
and because I wanted to become closer to her,
Yep.
and this is where God worked in my life
Right.
to drive me towards some stuff that changed my life forever,
Yep.
was I would go to these things with her.
Yeah.
I would go to meditation. I would go to the Course in Miracle classes. I would go to the bioenergetics classes. I got involved in stuff. And here's the good part is when I got there, I listened,
Yeah.
and I got hooked on it
Yeah.
because it was starting to have small changes in my life.
Mhm.
It started to have small changes in my perspective.
Yeah.
It started to really pop its head up into my life on what I could be
Yeah.
and what I could do.
Yeah.
And I say it all the time, even to this day. My wife is I owe her, everything.
Yeah.
She took in, she's a doctor.
Yeah.
She's got her doctorate.
Yeah.
She was very, very successful when I met her.
Yeah.
She's still very, very successful. But in my mind, I'm like, why was she with me?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, and then I always say it's like that old saying, it's like she saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself at
Yep.
that point.
Yep. I know
You
the
mean
feeling.
whatever it may be.
I totally understand. Let me share with the viewers one. Let me tell you what a big hearted guy this man is, okay? He's known this woman
Oh,
6 months. He's married after 7 months. He adopted her child, okay, right away, okay? That's a man of character, number one. Number two, his wife Maritza is stunningly beautiful. Um, but more importantly, he's got the heart, she's got the brains. And they
yeah.
really, they really are a power couple. I met them 3 or 4 months ago. I was in my car in Northern California, wherever I was, and they were they were not together in Florida, and we're on a Zoom call, right? And I was just blown away. One, their passion for one another. I just spent a weekend with them in Florida. Their love for one another. It's the kind of love that everybody can see and everybody wants and desires because it's real, it's authentic, it's transparent, and it's really beautiful to witness. So congratulations on that. Um,
Thank you.
so let's talk about your system of what you call life redesign. How did that come to be? How do you use it? Tell me a little bit about it.
It's basically individualized for everybody.
Yep.
The best analogy I can give for me is it's like I use a lot of NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming,
Okay.
which is actually, in simplest words, is a roadmap to the mind. It's very language based. Obviously, for me, and I talk a lot about this around the country. With all my police training, it was like the perfect thing for me because it became a superpower.
Okay.
Because all of my police training is built on rapport, it's based on language, command, presence, like all this type of stuff. But then you add in, I call NLP verbal judo, is what it is.
Okay.
It's basically, talking to people in different way. Everyone has a different learning style, right? Some are very visual, some are very auditory, some are very kinesthetic,
Right.
and everyone has a different language style.
Right.
If you're able to listen and give and speak to people in their primary talking style,
Yep.
the whatever you're trying to do, the increases of getting what you need or what you want,
Yep.
ecologically, meaning for good purposes,
Yep.
goes up tremendously.
Yep.
So I teach this to a lot of different, whether it's somebody that's working in personal development or whether somebody's working, in terms of business, if they have a call room or, if they're trying to increase their sales or their bottom line.
Yep.
It's absolutely amazing. But the best thing that I like about NLP is the fact that it's not a do to process, it's a do with process.
Okay.
So you can work on getting rid of limited beliefs, anchoring in different internal states that you'd rather be in. You mean whatever it is that you can think of, like getting rid of trauma. I
Yep.
mean, there's people. My wife wrote a book that was unpopular with the therapeutic community
Huh.
called "Get Off the Couch,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing book, but it has some NLP in it because NLP gets you it gets you right where you need to be quickly and effortlessly.
Okay.
I've had people that we've worked with that have been working on the same issue for 20 years. They've
Yeah.
been working with a therapist.
Yeah.
We've gotten rid of certain things. Like there was a lady who she hadn't flown in 20 years,
Yeah.
was driving a bus from like the East Coast to the West Coast.
Yeah.
We did one session with her and she had texted us from the phone, I mean, from the airplane going, I'm on a plane. You mean, so it's mind-boggling, and the stuff that it's done for me in my life,
Yeah.
you took somebody who's a convicted felon,
Yeah.
with all the stuff that I had told you about prior.
Yeah.
I built 2 multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah.
I have a fantastic wife. I have 3 beautiful children here, 2 beautiful children in Massachusetts. Um, I look back at, what I had said to you, 12, 13 years ago? I had a gun in my mouth,
Yeah.
ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah. A miracle. You're a miracle. Let me give a little commercial for NLP right now. So I'm going to mention a name that probably all of you have heard, who's probably took NLP and mastered it and created his own language around that, and that's Tony Robbins. And his first book,
Mhm.
which can't even think of the name of it, it's very high level technical reading, okay, which his first book was probably 30 years ago. But if you really want to understand NLP and what he calls NAC, his book, oh boy, I can't think of the power. Oh shoot, I can't. I've read it 100 times. I can't think of it. But his second book,
Grow rich?
no,
That
it's
one?
the greatness, the seed. Oh, I can't. It'll come to me in a minute. But anyways, but you have your own course with NLP, right? You guys,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
I'm going to
So we
take.
offer,
I'm going to take that
yeah, I
course.
mean, I tell everyone, and so we offer, 4 times a year our NLP live
Oh,
course, which is it's a 6-day course. It's 5 certifications. So within this, you get NLP, hypnosis, time techniques, EFT, and life coaching. So there's
powerful.
5 certifications within 6 days. There's 190 pre-study hours though,
Wow.
because it's very in depth. But what I love about, and we also offer it online as well. And when I say online, it's pre-recorded. So I
Yep.
have people in Texas, Nebraska, California that are actually doing it online now, and we work with them remotely.
Yeah.
But what I love most about NLP, because we get a lot of people that come in that want to use it for business, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
this is, I love it. And they were like, "Why are you smiling so much?" I'm like, "You'll see." And they want to improve their bottom line. They want to increase revenue because a lot of people with the economy and everything else, they want to improve their lives to, support their families, this and that. That's great. And I love it. And you will
Yeah.
improve your bottom line with taking it.
Yeah.
But what they don't know
Huh.
is the internal shifts that they're going to have.
Right.
You know what I mean? The
Right.
internal shifts, the shedding of the old skin, I like to
Exactly.
say. You mean getting rid of those limiting beliefs, those money blocks. You mean there's so much that goes into it, and I could talk for hours about it, but we don't have hours.
Right.
That's what I get excited about.
Right.
Is when people come in, yes, they're going to get what they want, but they're not going to be the same person that they walked
Yep.
in when they leave.
Well, now you're bringing up a guy who I follow and love, and that's Dr. Joe Dispenza. And what he says, if you
Yes,
want to create a new personal reality, you got to create a new personality. So all you're doing with your
absolutely.
NLP work with this business owner, you're changing his personality. And so now he's a lot smarter and more focused to be able to build his business. So you're helping him transform himself, which he then transforms his business. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, we're building a container for success.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people, though my book is about my, fall from grace. It's not just that book's not just meant for people struggling with addiction.
yeah,
That book is meant for
exactly.
the reluctant divorcee.
Yeah,
Do you mean the bankrupt professional?
yeah,
Anybody that's been publicly shamed, anybody that is going through any type of challenge or obstacle within life,
yeah,
it's a GPS system to start rebuilding your life now
yeah.
with tangible steps to do so.
Yeah. And by the way, I just remember the name of Tony Robbins' book, the second one that I like, Awaken the Giant Within. So if you really want a
Yes.
simplified version, but I would really suggest that you use Joe Kelley's work and Maritz's work and look into their, if they want to take your NLP course or if they want to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you if they want to do this NLP work? Because I know I'm going to do it.
Yeah, they can personally email. It's Joe at obtainingmastery.com.
Okay.
So again, Joe at obtainingmastery.com. You can find me on there. You can also go to obtainingmastery.com or OM Center for Wellness.com. So
Yeah.
three different ways, and you'll even when you email me, you'll even get my number as well.
And I would really encourage you, no matter where you're in life, that this is a tool that can really, really help you transform internally and create a much better life full of contribution, gratitude, love, and your whole container will become whole. What do I mean by that? Your body, your mind, your heart, and soul all becomes integrated. And then all of a sudden, you're hitting on all eight cylinders. And life, instead of
Oh,
becoming difficult, becomes much easier. Life will still have challenges, but you'll be able to overcome them instead of, you'll be able to thrive instead of just survive.
yes.
And I think there's a website for your book as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
What,
It's badgebarsbeyond.com. If you go on there, badgebarsbeyond.com, if you go on there, you'll get the first chapter for free. You mean so if you're interested in beyond that, then you can go on Amazon and purchase it. But I put the first chapter for free there. Um, and you can take a look. I think I have a B-roll, a little bit about me. Um, we're excited. We have that. Not only that, we have maximize your mindset. We have 4 events every year that sprinkles in a little bit of that, a little bit of hypnosis, a little bit of health and nutrition and wellness. Because I'm huge into self care.
yeah,
I mean, because even right now, we may work with a lot of people that are just starting out, but we also work with a lot of high executive CEOs that are making millions and millions of dollars
yeah,
every month,
yeah,
and we build containers of success. We're not, it's not just about financial, it's about bringing happiness to an individual, because sometimes you don't even know that what you're missing,
exactly,
you know.
exactly. And let me make a little commercial. I read the book in like 3 hours. It's a very simple book to read. It's only like 75 pages long, which is what I love about it. And the first half is Joe's amazing story from being a cop, badge, to going to prison bars, to beyond where he is now. And I guarantee you he's going to continue to go beyond and beyond and beyond and evolve into a higher, more functioning person that really is going to help us to usher in heaven back on the earth. As we go through these difficult times that we're going through right now, the work that he's doing, the work that his wife is doing, is really going to be able to raise the consciousness for all of us so that we can usher heaven back on the earth when we're done with whatever's going on in this crazy time right now. Okay.
Yeah, I say it all the time, Mike. I say, I mean, I'd like to put this out there is we're a part of a lot of different masterminds across, the country with very successful people. But I always say to them, yeah, I applaud people's success, but I like when people are vulnerable. And
Yes.
I think I told you this, it's
Yeah.
one of my best things is I get out there and share about all the stuff I went through because I can't change any of it.
Yep.
So maybe I could use it to change someone else's life.
Yep.
I don't believe that I'm the best speaker in the world or I'm the best this or the
Yep.
best that, but I believe I have something to say. And if I
Yep.
can be vulnerable about the things that I've gone through in my life,
Yep.
maybe it's going to help somebody who's dying silently over there.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's more of us need to speak up,
Yep.
more, and especially more of us that have become successful.
And let me ask you this. When did you realize that you needed to become vulnerable? And how did that happen? And
Mhm.
when did you actually become vulnerable?
So I needed when I met my wife. You know what I mean? I
Maritza.
went through Yeah, I mean, that was when I really started to become vulnerable. During one of my NLP classes, we did vulnerability training,
Mhm.
and that was for somebody to stand up and share something about themselves. So you got to understand, all these people in this class thought I was this high executive CEO making a ton of money. When I stood up there and told my story for the first time in a bunch of room with a bunch of like highly successful people that knew nothing about addiction,
Yeah.
their mouths dropped. You were talking, I'm standing up there talking about when I used to shoot dope.
Right.
Do you know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
they're like, oh my God. But the best part about it was they had known me for 4 days up to that point. So
Oh,
they really got to know me and there was some personal connections.
right.
So when I stood up there and said that, but it was like a domino effect, Mike. It was a domino
Everybody
effect.
got honest,
Four
authentic,
other
and vulnerable.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, 4 other people came clean about something that they struggled with that had to do with that. It
Yeah.
was it was my and that's the thing. When we can become boisterous and vulnerable
Yeah.
about the things that we're going through, it allows other people, to do it as well.
Yeah.
It's just lead by example
Well,
and let the rest fall. Away.
my late wife, Margot, she must have told me, we were together 10 years before she passed. She must have told me 1,000 times, Mike, you need to learn to become vulnerable. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a clue what she was talking about. And not a
Right.
freaking clue. Okay, I would try. And you talk about the 4 agreements in your book, and I thought I was honest till I read that book and didn't understand what being impeccable with your word means. But anyways, Mike, you got to learn to be vulnerable. You know when I learned to become vulnerable? The day she died. The day she
Yeah.
died, because there was no, I had no I, that's the only thing I could be, was vulnerable. Okay. I had no
Yeah.
resistance, zero. And so, as in becoming vulnerable, we become that superhero. We get that power back because now we're authentic and now we're comfortable in our own skin. And now,
Yeah.
no matter what, you can't shame us any longer. No, our
No.
life is an open book. I always like, you know, if you're really authentic and vulnerable, then everything you do, think, feel all day long, you should be comfortable on the cover of the San Francisco Chronicle. Okay, but most
Yeah.
of us are leading lives of quiet desperation, and we have a bunch of stuff in our closet that we're ashamed of, and so we contract instead of expanding, and then we're screwed. And it's when we own our own stuff and we accept it. Acceptance is the key to all of our problems, right? And we accept who we are, what we've done, and we're comfortable with it, and we're vulnerable. Now we're authentic, and now we can love and serve and help people. Do you agree?
There you go. I, amen.
I got to tell you, folks. I mean, I love this guy. I've only known him 3 months. I feel like I've known him from my whole life. And I want to close with this. Close with one thing. First, before I close with this one thing, you say in your book, "I'm not a victim," and I talk a lot about that when people think they're a victim or they want to play the victim card or they've given away their power. And so when you don't have any power, you can't stop being a victim. So I say, listen, folks, we're either all victims or none of us are victims. Pick your poison, it doesn't matter. But when you are a victim, you have no power. So quit being a victim and realize that you're a creator and you chose to come here in this physical incarnation and you chose to be here at this time and you have a purpose. You need to find your purpose and then go out there and create that purpose and create the life of your dreams. But you can't do that as a victim. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I always say, don't be defined by your mistakes, but rather be defined in your perseverance in overcoming them.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that there's uh, uh, there's no room. My life changed when I owned stuff.
yeah,
My life changed when I got honest with myself, more importantly than
yeah,
anybody else.
yeah.
So you hit it right on the head. There's not much more to add to that one.
I want to close with this because I know it made you cry when you got it and received it a long time ago. It made me cry this morning when I read it in your book. And so your friend Damien wrote to you after you've gotten out of prison, after your life is in shambles, after you're trying to rebuild your life. And this is what he wrote to you. You've turned fumbles into touchdowns before, Joe. Just do it again. And tell us about that game. And you were playing the game for a buddy with cancer. And we have so many similarities. You know, cancer's played a big part in my life. You got paroled in July of 2011. My wife passed in June of 2011. You started your recovery. I started my recovery. And we're kind of both ending up in the same place. So tell us about the game, what happened, and more importantly, when you received this letter, what the impact on your life was.
Yeah, the game, oldest rivalry in the state between two towns. They were going to, I think they were a 9-1 going to the. If they beat us, they go to the championship. We were like 3-7. Had a terrible year with injuries. We had no shot in dark. And our one of the kids on our team came into our locker room who had gotten cancer, or at least diagnosed with cancer 4 months earlier with bone cancer, and said, "Play every play like your last, because I don't think I'll ever get another chance to play."
Wow.
And he actually died 3 months after that game.
Oh.
And we went into that game, and it came down to the last play.
Mm.
I handed the ball off to my best friend. He dropped it. He says I didn't put it in there, but I'm going with he. I picked up the ball. He took out two guys in front, and I crossed the end zone. And when I looked down, half of my body was over the end zone with the ball, and we won that game for our friend.
Yeah.
It was probably the biggest win in the state's history at that time, and they still talk about that game today. It
Wow.
gives me goosebumps. But the biggest thing about it was you know not 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 listening to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not listening to people say that you can't do something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with my story.
What?
People are out there, even when I wrote a book, you're gonna have haters for
Right.
that. I
Right.
think I high
Exactly.
five my wife and said, I got my first hater. Love it. Right.
But
You know, uh,
when did Damien write this letter and when did you receive it?
yeah, so Damien, that's actually a Facebook message that
Wow.
he had sent to me.
Wow.
And let me tell you what, I was sitting in my aunt's house when I got it, and I was on parole, and he had just reached out to me because I was posting on Facebook here and there some like positive quotes, this and that, and he knew I had just gotten out. And when I read that, it really changed my life and my
Mm.
perspective. And I'm being all as genuine as I can. That single, and he actually has passed away since then. And I never got it. I told him what it meant to me, but if he knew how much that ignited me to where I am today, because it wasn't like my dad or my mom were saying, "Hey, you're good enough. What's wrong with you?" Like this and that. He used specific examples that hit my heart, coming from athletics, and to know that somebody that had known me so long ago had thought that much about me, and even to write that to me
Yeah.
after everything I had gone through,
Yeah.
it changed everything for me.
So for you guys out there listening and watching this, take that into consideration. You could save someone's life by being kind and compassionate and reaching out. Just take that extra 5 minutes. And when you see someone less fortunate than yourself, try to lift them up. It could save a life. I've heard so many stories like this. This man said that those two sentences that he sent to him in a Facebook post changed his freaking life. And this man's life is powerful. Damien's now gone, but he's watching this. I would believe that he's watching this, and that was part of his purpose to come here to inspire this man so this man can do great things. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart as one, being my new friend that I truly love, and being on the show and sharing, and more importantly, the power of your voice that you share today hopefully will touch hearts and souls as well. Thank you, Joe.
No, thank you, Mike, for having me. And you always got a friend here too, bud.
All right. I'll see you soon. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. And we hope to see you next week on the Power of Your Voice podcast. See you next time. Okay, guys, my favorite segment of the Power of Your Voice show is the Mountains of Hope segment. And today we have a very special segment. Joining us is one of the leaders and teachers of Mountains of Hope, Kelly, who's a certified health coach. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Mike.
So Kelly has a very unique subject today, but I'm going to call it, it's really a beauty secret, I think. If you look at Kelly, she's very beautiful. She has beautiful skin. She's very healthy. And she has a beauty secret that is going to probably shock you. So for you gals out there, I really strongly encourage you to do this because it's a beautiful detox way to detox your body. And for you guys out there too, listen, pay attention because there's another way to prevent serious illness down the road, and it has to do with liver and your coffee. Kelly, it's all yours.
I will always say it's my favorite way to take coffee. I mean, seriously. So I will say it's one of those things that is actually really ancient. It's not a new thing, and it was practiced many, many years ago by kings and emperors. I mean, it wasn't for the normal people.
Like centuries ago.
Yeah, like centuries ago. And it's a practice that helps us clean out our skin. I mean, when we have like brain fog or we cannot think clearly, it's a situation happening in our lives and we just want to kind of flush it out. When we actually have issues with our liver, when we actually not detoxifying properly or supporting detoxifying process, is coffee enemas. I mean, amazing thing that came to my life many years ago. I actually was suffering from headaches, like really strong headaches. And sometimes even medicine, intravenous medicine wouldn't do it for me. So someone once was like, okay, why you try a coffee enema? So I started studying around and I'm like, no way. Like, I'm not doing that. So 5 years later, I'm actually a full fan, supportive of coffee enemas. Obviously, I mean, people who actually have medical restrictions, so don't do it. But this for me has been amazing. The benefits with inflammation, the benefits for the skin, for the mind, clarity in your mind, for your skin. I mean, seriously, it really helps and supports the process of the liver of detoxifying. I mean, we need to understand detox and detoxifying is something that our body does naturally. Is that sometimes our liver needs a little bit kind of help because of the toxins that we are surrounded by, process that we have. If you went through antibiotics or a lot of drugs, whatever treatment you have, so that support to our liver is amazing.
So how do you do it?
So it's really simple. It's like
I see
preparing
you
a
have
coffee.
some.
This is one of the things that we actually use that is really hygiene and is really for the continual use at your place.
Okay.
So basically what you do is
Well, you start
prepare-
with coffee.
Yeah, so
And-
what you do is you prefer a coffee. Let's start by the coffee. The coffee needs to be organic, preferably, because we are gonna do anal hydrotherapy.
Okay.
So a clean coffee, preferably organic, that actually you can use.
Organic is very important, right?
Yeah, that's really important. There is also places in some institutes that are actually creating coffees, especially for coffee enemas. When you check, for example, in Amazon, and you put coffee enema, it's a coffee that you don't drink it. You only use it for coffee enemas because it has extra ingredient that it supports the liver detoxification. But let's say you don't have that one, find a organic coffee. So that's the first thing.
Then you just cook the coffee on the pan.
If it's your first time, 2 to 3 scoops will make it. We
And how
started
much
with
water?
2.
How much water? Enough
Like
to fill that bucket?
No, it could be like this, like a cup of water to actually heat up the coffee. So if you use, for example, the what is it, a cold press?
Cold press.
Yeah, like a cold press, or you use the little zipper thing. So
Yeah.
whatever you prepare, prepare a coffee, a black coffee, that's it. So you let it cool down because you don't want that to
Right.
go like so hot in
Right.
your body. The other thing is the water that you use to prepare the coffee.
Distilled be best?
Distill filter that you use. I mean, if you live in like rural areas, like trying to heat it up or something like that, but filter water would be also a really good suggestion. So you put the water, so you heat up the coffee. So you have like a cup of coffee, but then you fill it up another cup or extra 2 cups, so you actually don't have it so hot.
Okay.
It's like the baby bottle.
Yeah.
So you test it in your skin if it's not too hot, because if it's too hot, you will not be able to hold it. You
Right.
can damage parts of your
Right.
body. If it's too cold, you also not be able to hold it.
Oh, interesting.
So one
Why? Because it's cold that you force it out?
Yeah, because it's
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable in your
Yeah,
body.
got it.
So you actually will be like, literally. One of the things that I suggest for people when it's the first time and they are not so familiar with it is to actually do only water enema
At first.
prior.
Yeah.
Because then you will clean your bowels and you don't have to be holding the coffee. Because if you do it straight with the coffee and your bowels were kind of ready to go, so you'll make a mess
Okay.
in the bathroom. So you prepare this, you check the water, you put it in this container. It has actually, like, it's we can explain it to you. We're actually giving you a PDF if you write
Okay,
to us
okay,
in the website
perfect.
Mountains of Hope. You leave us your details and put enema,
Okay.
and we'll give you like a clear
So let me
explanation.
just make sure you guys understand. Go to mountainsofhope.com, give us your first name, your email, and then we have a comment section. Just put enema PDF or whatever, and we'll send you a free of charge how to do this at home.
So you just do it, you plug in, and the idea is that you go to the bathroom. I said, and I always create this like a ritual in my room, in my bathroom. I put music, I put some diffusers, and I just take it a moment to connect with myself.
Yes.
I just don't do it like a therapeutical thing. Oh my goodness, what is going to happen? No, just let go of the result. Just let go of what's going on because it's a moment for you. And we are talking about your liver. We are talking about your brain and that connection that we have discussed between our stomach and our brain. It literally works like beautifully here. So the idea is that you go to your room, you actually put this probably where you put your towel or something that is a little bit higher than your body. The higher you put it, the
Gravity.
faster
Yep.
the liquid will go. So for first timers, I would say just try to put it a little bit like here. If you're familiar with it, you already know you can put it just where the towel goes. And then you actually, it's amazing because these little things come with this plug. So you actually kind of let it go at your speed. If
Okay.
you feel like it's being too much, you just stop it.
Okay.
And for this part, which is the one that you introduce to your anus, you actually can use coconut oil, olive oil.
Okay.
So it's easier. I'm going to tell you, it's not painful.
Right.
It's not painful.
Right.
Trust me, I have done so many so far. And it's not painful. And you breathe, you hold it, you lay on your right hand side, and whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just stay there. If you want to read something, if you want to hear music, if you just want to meditate, just do it, take your time.
Okay, so you insert the tube, gravity fills your body with the coffee, and you hold it for how long?
So normally we suggest like 14 minutes, but if you start with 3 minutes, 5 minutes, that's great.
Okay,
That's
and then you just get up and you sit on the toilet and you release.
Exactly.
And the benefit to the liver is what?
So there is these two phases in the detoxification process of our liver. It actually supports one part that is actually responsible for that. It's the push that it gives to us to actually detoxify our body. So it actually supports there. It also cleanses like that last part of our whole intestine, like if it was probably there like a little bit constipated, things like that. I'm not saying this is the solution for constipation. Listen to that. But I'm just saying if you were feeling, if it's not your normal state. So it actually, when you clean up that part, it's like you clean up this
Right,
part
exactly.
as well. And if you're in the middle of a detox program, for example, taking some things, you actually support all the detox that you're actually doing, whether it's through juices or drinking, some of the supplements that people suggest, doctors. But I always said, put an intention in that moment to whatever you connect in your soul with.
Yeah.
And trust me, try and let me know.
Thank you so much. So let me just tell you my experience with this. I first learned about coffee enemas through the Gerson therapy, right? And so anybody dealing with cancer, and 1 out of 3 people get cancer in America, so I'm sure there's someone in your life right now that's probably battling some sort of cancer. And so according to the Gerson therapy, this is a great way to clean the liver and detox the body. And that's what we do at Mountains of Hope. We do these coffee enemas for you. We show you how, we teach you, we give you all the supplies and the materials. We actually have kalimas, which are even bigger if you want to go longer and have more fluid in your body and clean out even more. My late wife, Margot, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she did coffee enemas, I would say 5 nights a week. Every night there was always coffee brewing on, a big pot of coffee brewing on the stove. And she had instead of a metal bucket, she had a rubber enema bag,
Yeah.
which works just as well.
As well.
And she just we had a big bathtub. She's going to go in the bathtub, hang the coffee enema bag, and do the coffee enema. So it works. It's really good for cleaning the liver. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we only have one liver. So do it, clean it. But the big benefit is your skin clearing up, your brain fog clearing up, and you're detoxing your body. So thank you for the segment, Kelly, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.